Call this meeting of the Grant Executive Committee to order, and I want to welcome everybody here, especially today. We want to tell how pleased we are to have the new McLean County Judge, Judge Burton, here today, and welcome aboard. We're really glad to have you. And also Judge Roberts from Hancock County. We're glad to have you aboard. And make yourself at home and ask questions and participate. And we'll be, I don't think we'll be too bad to you. Don't pay a whole lot of attention to Judge Mattingly, but other than that, but I didn't really mean that.
I'm still your treasurer, so be good.
Hey, that's right. I better be close.
Pal.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, just really do welcome y'all here. Right now we'll call on Judge Henry to give the treasurer's report.
No, you're treasurer, yeah. You want to do it?
Told me just a second ago.
That's all right, you can do it. Do we even have a book?
Well, this is what
We don't have a book. I don't have a book. Do you have a book? You don't have a dog. That's not your
I
book.
got one you can borrow.
That's it. He got it now.
What's,
It's a new year.
this change in transition is not going very well.
Exactly.
It may be because I can only see out of one eye since the one was just put out with this rubber band.
And Judge Roberts said he puts his fourth grade into the corner to shoot
Told him we
rubber bands.
usually clip down for that, but I'll let you go. This is new.
It's like page something, 2. That 1 and 0, I don't know, they're saving.
Yeah.
Man, you became, Judge Henry's become treasurer, they really cut back.
Oh, yeah.
No more number. It's 1 and 2.
Looks like a 1 and 2.
Well, as you look over page 1 and 2, everything looks good.
Do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion was by Judge Mattingly and second by Judge Onan. Any discussion?
Commend the grad staff. I think we're at 36% of
Yes.
year-to-day expenses. Is that, am I reading that correctly? About halfway through the fiscal year. So great job of holding the line on expenses. And that's the way to win. So thank you very much.
Actually, the former treasurer was responsible for that.
Hey, yeah. Well, you have a chairman now that knows how to spend it, so it won't be a try. Okay. If no more discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The treasurer's report is approved. Now I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chairman Snyder, and he's going to come and introduce our guest speaker.
Marshall.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be introducing him, but it's good because the group we have with us today to give us an update on the I-69 bridge project have become good friends. Got to know them well and really appreciate the job they've done getting the project up to this point. As you know, we had 2 public hearings after the issuing of the draft environmental impact statement a couple weeks ago and the declaration of the preferred route for the bridge and its approaches, and the public hearings were the next step in that process. And Marshall Carrier is the I-69 project manager for KYTC, and he's joined by Mindy Peterson, who is the spokesperson for the Ohio River Crossing team, which is made up of engineers and representatives of both KYTC and the Indiana Department of Transportation. I think I've got that right. And also Gary Valentine is with us. Gary is one of the lead engineers, and there's been some turnover on the Indiana side and project managers, and thank goodness Kentucky's been able to pick up the ball in that interim and keep it moving forward. And this group has a lot of experience building bridges. Gary was part of the team with the Louisville Bridge project, and Marshall, were you a part of that as well?
Well, no, not that.
So baptism of fire for Marshall Carrier on this project. With that, I'll bring Marshall Carrier up to give us an update on all things I-69 bridge.
Thanks, Judge. Yeah, I didn't have the benefit of the Louisville Bridges job, but I've worked on several jobs across the state. Did I just lose my? Uh-oh.
It was me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared.
That's all right. Just a little brief history of what I've done with KYTC. I've been now the I-69 project manager for the ORX project, and also project manager for the Mountain Parkway in eastern Kentucky. That's about a 46-mile corridor in eastern Kentucky, and then also project manager for the I-65 spur between Owensboro and Bowling Green. So I've got some ties to the area already, but certainly not to the level of the ORX project. But we're super excited to be working with the public to deliver this particular large-scale federal initiative.
Kim, I have a flash if you want it.
Well, actually, it's not connecting to the, screen.
Oh.
It's not me.
That's what they all say.
I didn't think it was.
There's Larry Macklin.
Right.
There it goes.
Oh.
Okay,
All right.
sweet. Great. Thank you very much. It helps to have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, special thanks to everybody for having us today. Some familiar faces in the room, some new folks. I guess congratulations needs to go out to some of the newly elected officials that may still be in the room too. So what we want to do today is kind of give you a brief history of where we've been since 2017, bring you up to speed with where we are today. Certainly an important milestone for the project. We're excited to be where we are with the publication of DEIS, and we'll cover some of the technical aspects of some of the verbiage of the environmental phase of where we are, as well as some of the communications efforts that are also quite important, getting some comments from the public. So we certainly came a long way from where we were in 2017, so we're very excited. Just last month, the project team published the DEIS, December the 14th, I guess it was, with our preferred alternatives. So we're excited to go to the public with that and receive those comments from the public, and it's certainly is a significant point for the project. We're going to run down a few items today. We'll talk about the draft environmental impact statement, what that is, how that originated, and what we're trying to do to satisfy the NEPA process from a federal standpoint, looking at the different preferred alternatives. As far as the Q&A, we can certainly do Q&A after the presentation or at any point in time. If you all feel like you need to raise a question, go ahead. Or we can discuss things afterwards if you'd like, just whatever, we're pretty open to address questions as you see fit. Interested to hear y'all's comments and questions. Talking about some pretty important aspects too, the financial feasibility, the financing and funding, tolling, and public involvement and feedback. So we're excited to be where we are, and we've certainly got a lot of information to bring to you guys today. In reference to the DEIS, what is the DEIS? It was published last month, which is, like I said before, an important milestone. But what does that do? It satisfies the NEPA process, the National Environmental Preservation Act. And what that's originated out of, I guess it was Richard Nixon in 1970, January 1st, 1970, brought that into law, which essentially any type of major federal action, which this is, a project of this caliber is a major federal action. It allows the states and the federal agencies to go through the process of identifying impacts environmentally, whether it be environmental justification impacts, low income, as well as, people refer to environmental as the birds and the bees, and well, there's certainly many layers to that discussion too. A lot of work with our partners with FHWA, Division of Water, Army Corps, you name it. So we've had a lot of conversation just to get to this point. We'll cover some of that. This just kind of encapsulates some of the information that we provided in the DEIS for the public. It captures all the work from 2017 to where we are today, getting to that publication date last month. It summarizes the study process, the analysis, and the findings that our project team has gone through since 2017 to go through those evaluations of those environmental impacts and EJ impacts to the public. And it provides a basis for the selection of the preferred alternative. Obviously, that's a key aspect of this document. And what that does is allow us to get to a talking point with the public that they can officially comment on it, and those comments can be part of the record of decision, hopefully at the end of 2019, and it allows the review agencies to officially comment on the document too. So it's an official comment period, and that comment period ends, I guess, February the 8th, I believe. So we certainly had some good comments the past 2 nights. We've had two community meetings, official hearings is what it's called in the DIS process. Had a lot of good feedback, a lot of good comments, and 99.9% of that was very positive. So, and that's a good thing to see in the public when we get to this point. It also addresses, the DEIS also addresses mitigation measures to address unavoidable impacts to the public, and we'll go through some of those issues as well. It's important to know this document is available for review online, and there's also hard copies around the area. So you can go to the website and get those locations pretty quickly, and those hard copies are available if you have the time to go through a highly technical, I don't know how much, 6,000 to 8,000 page document. So it is what it is. A lot of those are appendices, so some of that is a little smoother reading than others. So certainly worth your time to go through that. Public involvement is certainly an important aspect of this project, and we're very blessed to have Mindy on the job. She's certainly got some good experience from the Louisville Bridges project, but when it comes to public involvement and engaging the public, she's the best that we have. So it's certainly good to have her in those aspects, and I know NDOT is certainly very appreciative to have you too. We went into the conversation with NDOT, pretty much talking about how good of a job you've done for us, and they certainly rang true, and we appreciate it. I'll let you do. We opened offices in both Evansville and in Henderson. In Henderson, it's on Barrett Court. Hopefully you all had a chance to go by there, familiar with the Barrett Court area, and also Eagle Crest Drive in Evansville. So the office hours are on the website, but we encourage, and you should encourage folks from the area to come by the office. You can view the DIS there and make comments there, or at least just have some discussions with the project team members that may be there that day. It's certainly welcome to have everybody come in and see the place. We had a series of open houses. We always have open houses both in Evansville and in Henderson. We've had 6 community conversations earlier this year, and those have been very good community conversations. We've gotten a lot of good feedback just to get to this point where we are now. So it's kind of builds into the discussion of how to get from the original notice of intent to get to this DIS publication, which is an important milestone, like we said earlier. And we've been actively sharing a lot of the information through social media, and that social media has kind of given us the ability to do that in a more timely manner, divulging information, making that information available to people as well as a website. So it's been certainly beneficial for us. A lot of news outlets have covered our activity, a lot of website, and we strive to make it easy for the public to get to that information as they see fit. When we go through the DEIS process, you essentially need to establish critical criteria for the delivery of the DEIS. And what the purpose and need does for the DEIS is allow you to weigh the factors of different alternates based on similar criteria. So you're kind of comparing apples to apples when it comes to evaluations of the effects to the public and effects to the environment. The 4 main critical points that we've identified is obviously just completion of the I-69 connection, and that's more of a regional discussion. That's more of a corridor discussion and a national discussion. So we're excited to be delivering on that aspect. Long-term cross-river mobility and reducing congestion and delay, as well as also, as important as anything, is improving the safety of the traveling public through the corridor. We looked at several alternatives over the past couple of years. In 2017, we had up to 5 corridors. Now, that's not just 5 corridors specifically. Those are 5 corridors, and you roll in discussions whether you toll or not to toll, keep one bridge, keep both bridges, keep no bridges. So we've been through about, 40 to 50 iterations of these same corridors that you see on the map. So since 2015 or 2017, we narrowed it down from 5 to 3. And every time that we narrow it down, we go back to the public to receive comment and get feedback from the public. So we're just trying to stay in tune as best we can with what the concerns that the public may have. And those alternates, each of those alternates are always weighed against those purpose and need items that we just discussed. On December the 14th, like we said earlier, the DIS was published. It identified, the goal of that is getting to the preferred alternative. So in this case, we identified Central Alternative 1A and Central Alternative 1B. So what does that mean? Really, 1A and 1B is the exact same corridor, same impacts from a physical standpoint, but Central Alternative 1A it allows the federal agencies and the KYTC to toll both one existing US 41 bridge as well as the new bridge on the east side of town. Now, Alternative 1B only calls for tolling the new crossing, the new I-69 crossing, and leaving the existing northbound bridge in Henderson untolled, which has obviously been a key discussionary point for the past couple of nights. And we've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of comments on that very aspect. So we'll go through some of those in just a second. We'll talk a little more about these 2 different preferred alternatives right now and kind of give you a breakdown of each. As we mentioned before, Central 1A would toll both I-69 bridge and the remaining US 41 bridge. That'd be the northbound bridge. Physically, they're the same. The route, the bridge location, the lane configurations are all identical. Obviously, the tolling scenario is the only difference, and that's certainly came out in the conversations that we've had in the past 2 nights with the public. They're very aware of the differences between Central Alternate 1A and 1B, and they voiced those concerns, and which is good. It's exactly what we needed from those meetings. We needed those comments to be brought forth from the public. And those voices need to be heard in this process to get to the record of decision.
Can you show which one is 1A?
Well, they're the exact same route. It's just whether or not you keep the northbound, one of the twin bridges on 41.
That orange line there.
Yeah. Our intent with both alternates shows us keeping the northbound bridge, the 41 bridge, but one alternate tolls both crossings, and one alternate only tolls the new crossing. So that's the difference between the 2. Both include a 4-lane I-69 bridge and retain one of the US 41 bridges. Both include more than 11 miles of interstate with 3 new interchanges. That's inclusive of a couple of new interchanges. As well as maintaining local access for the traveling public along the US 41 corridor. Out of that 11 miles, about 2.4 of that is what you see the existing 41 corridor connection point between the termination point of I-69 and where it starts to break away from 41. I would show it to you, but I don't think the laser shows up very well on the map there. You can see right there. Okay, it kind of shows it there. This is a section here that's really, it's the exact same line as what you have right now, but we're going to be going through the process to upgrade this to interstate quality roadway as part of this project. Now, from here on out and across the Ohio and tying into 69, this is all brand new alignment. So it's just something to keep in mind. The new interchanges that I discussed earlier, we're talking about a new interchange at I-69 in Indiana, and this is about, if I can get the laser to show up again, it worked first time. But it's about a mile to the east there at the top of the map from the existing 41 interchange that you see there. So, also a new interchange there at US 60, about halfway down you can see the new interchange on US 60. as well as an interchange with US 41 just south of Henderson. You might remember that the connection to US 41 was improved last summer to improve access. That certainly holds true with both alternates. It is the same physical alignment. Funding availability, construction to start as late as 2021. With the I-69 could be open to 2025, obviously. That's a whole discussion that we'll cover as well in reference to the funding availability. Your right-of-way impacts are certainly minimized with this alignment, so that saves you a little bit of time getting to construction if funds were to become available. It's a process. It's a very extensive process, but we're getting there. So we're excited to be moving forward. Selection of Central Alternative 1A and 1B really consisted of a few different things. When we're comparing these to the other alternates that you saw on some of the previous maps. This particular alternate in this route offered the fewest residential relocations. In this particular situation, you're only talking about approximately, these are just approximate numbers, 4 relocations, as opposed to hundreds of relocations along the 41 corridor with some of the west alternates. So that's a big talking point with the public. And you know, if you're going along the West 1 and West 2, those are going to be significant right-of-way impacts from a commercial and a residential standpoint. So that's certainly an item that we want to touch on in this document. This route offers 0 commercial relocations. Like we mentioned before, there was a lot of other impacts with West 1 and West 2. With this alternate, one of the US 41 bridges were retained to offer that cross-river redundancy. We had a lot of comments in the public early on in this document preparation about having redundancy across the Ohio. So we listened to them and looked at possibilities of keeping at least one of the US 41 bridges. It's the fewest impacts to the resources like wetlands and floodways. It's kind of harkens back to the environmental discussion I talked about earlier. But at nearly $1.5 billion, it was the lowest cost option. So just imagine you have, again, right-of-way impacts, commercial impacts on the 41 corridor, raise those costs even above our estimated $1.5 billion. So cost is obviously another important aspect of delivering this document. The project overall has to be feasible in order to be built, and that's an important aspect. And that becomes, and what do we mean when we say feasible? We mean environmental impacts, we mean constructability, we're talking about cost, we're talking about all those aspects being quote unquote feasible. And we're trying to work with the public and the leaders in the area to work through that discussion, especially upcoming in the remainder of this year. We're going to be sharpening our pencil, so to speak, to further those discussions with everybody in the area, as well as leaders administratively and throughout the state. So we're excited to be moving forward with those discussions too. What we don't want to do is end up where we were in 2004, is get about to where we are now and not have a funding mechanism identified in the near future to get to that record decision. And that's what we're working hard, and we're working in cooperation with our partners in FHWA, as well as the leaders in the area, and the people of the area to refrain from being in the same spot that we were in 2004. That's our ultimate goal. And by doing so, we'll be able to deliver a product that the traveling public will be able to appreciate, and it'll benefit economically the whole region. We're going to discuss a little more about the financials. Talking about cross-river capacity, the traffic forecasts indicate part of this DEIS process is we went through some traffic analysis, looking at your current ADT versus projected ADT and where the route's going now, where that traveler may be coming to and from to get to Evansville versus Henderson, and looking at the capacity of the existing lanes versus what's needed to carry future average daily traffic demands. Our traffic forecasts indicate that we needed 6 lanes needed total. More would add, if you had more than 6 lanes, you would add essentially operations and maintenance costs on top of what we're looking at currently right now. But our traffic projections are showing that we need 6 lanes. So The proposed I-69 bridge would offer 4 lanes, as you have in your handout. You show some schematics there. It's 4 lanes, 2 north, 2 south. And keeping one of the existing 41 bridges offers the additional 2 lanes that we're talking about, so 6 lanes total. Now, it's an important thing to point out that it may be shown as 4 lanes when I-69, the new bridge is built, but the typical width of the bridge is actually wide enough we can accommodate an additional 2 lanes. So we'd have a 3rd lane north and a 3rd lane south. So this is certainly the proper time to do that initial construction, is to widen that just a little bit more and squeeze in 2 more lanes, which is important. In the future, if that was ever needed, we've got the capacity and a very expensive structure already figured in. So that's important too. We're looking at expected operations and maintenance costs out to 2062. Removing one bridge would save about $146 million in that time span. So you have to weigh the consequences of incorporating that bridge into the overall discussion too, from a financial and feasible standpoint, which is what we've done to date. Now, there's some discussion to be had about that in the future with the public and with the leaders in the area to further evaluate those costs and how we need to incorporate that into the overall financial discussion. We're certainly going to be doing that in the future. It's recommended that the northbound bridge is retained. Now, why do we retain the north versus the south? Actually, the north is older than the south bridge of the twin bridges. The north was built in the 30s, and the south was built in the early 60s. So, that being said, why do we want to retain the north and not the south? Well, the north has historic significance, first of all, based on how it was constructed and how it was funded. And the south was essentially built as a twin to the north. So we went through some evaluations with the State Highway Preservation Office, or State Historic Preservation Office, discussions with them to come out with the direction that we could keep the northbound in and look at possibility of not having the southbound bridge in this discussion, in order to save costs in the long run. We'll go on to a little bit further detail of financing and funding. Obviously, this is a very important aspect. It's hard to get to a record of decision, hard to get to a final environmental impact statement without further evaluations of costs and needs for the area. And it's hard to get anything built if you don't have the money to build it. So it's obvious that this is a tremendous talking point, but we do have a math problem. There are certainly needs across the state that are always being evaluated, and this is certainly one of those discussionary points. But from a programmatic statewide, this is such a high cost to the public and to both agencies, as federal and state, that this is always weighed against other needs across the state, as you all are fully aware, I'm sure. Our team's been developing a preliminary financial plan, so a lot of the numbers that you see either in your handout or you've heard about in the public meetings, those are preliminary numbers. We've done the best that we can to the point that we are now to try to get those numbers refined. But now that we've gone to the public and heard some comments from the public, maybe we can go back and start thinking about other ways that we can refine those costs, and we'll certainly be doing that. We would be doing that anyway, but it's good to have the comments from the public to help us understand where they're coming from and some of their concerns. Toll revenue is certainly a new aspect that wasn't discussed back in 2004. There wasn't a lot of appetite to discuss the tolling aspect as far as the capacity to deliver financially on a job of this caliber, and those things have changed over time, and now we're to the point that we can further administer those conversations and get into the more deeper tolling discussion with the public. As far as upfront capital costs, tolling both bridges only accounts for about 40% of those upfront capital costs, and that's also in your handout there. Tolling only the I-69 only accounts for about 20% of those upfront capital costs, so it leaves a significant burden from a financial standpoint of trying to figure out ways to allocate additional monies toward this particular project and figuring out ways to be innovative in delivery of such a program. The funding gap is significant no matter what, whether it's keeping or tolling both bridges or just tolling one, keeping both bridges, keeping only one of the twin bridges. The financial discussion is significant no matter how you look at it. There's certainly a funding gap that needs to be openly discussed. Putting that in terms of the money, this is kind of what I was talking about, the funding gap. This is also in your handout. You're looking at what this identifies as from a planning level stage, existing the expected toll revenue generated by tolling based on the ADT and based on the traffic routes, whether you only toll I-69 versus tolling both I-69 and one of the US 41 bridges. Traffic will understand what's tolled, what's not tolled, so it affects your ADT depending on the route that they take, and which obviously affects the amount of money
Closest example, go a couple of hours east to Louisville, where they have 3 tolled bridges. This is what it looks like. You have these gantries overhead. They have a lot of equipment on those. Those are sensors up there, those white things that look a little bit like pizza boxes. And then you have cameras as well, right in between those. So this person, let's say they have a prepaid account. All electronic tolling is prepaid. You get a transponder, just a little sticker. Goes on the inside of your windshield, or you could get an easy pass. Hard case goes on the inside of the windshield, works in several states. What happens at that point is you drive across a tolled bridge, sensors read the transponder, money comes out of your account. You have to keep money in your account, but you pay the lowest toll rate. That's how it works for you. That's how you keep traffic moving. If you spend as much money as we've talked about spending and you slow down traffic with tolls, doesn't work. So you want to keep that traffic moving. So that's the benefit of all electronic tolling. For people who do not open accounts in transponders, it's going to cost more. There's more legwork for us. What happens at that point is the cameras take a picture of the license plate. We have to track it to the registered owner of the vehicle. Invoices are generated. If they're not paid, additional invoices are generated. So there is more work involved there, and it costs more. Also important that we talk about what could it look like as far as toll rates. This group is not going to decide that. That's not up to this project team. It's not part of the environmental process. It's going to be a bi-state body that will get together and decide business rules, basically how tolling will operate. That will include tolling rates. That happens certainly before we get to construction, but it does not happen as part of this environmental process. But the team has to do its due diligence and take a look at the numbers. Otherwise, we don't know exactly what we're dealing with. So they have to plug in numbers. So with some of the numbers that we've plugged in, and they've plugged in many different scenarios they're running, they look at the Ohio River Bridges project and these initial toll rates in Louisville. It's based entirely on your vehicle classification, small, medium, large. It's easy to look at this and maybe get a little bit of sticker shock because we haven't had tolling in a while and we're used to dropping the coins in. These rates are at or below national average for tolls across the country. People will tell you if you get in some of the big city areas, if you get up in the north, get in New York, you're going to pay triple digits to move through the area. You really are. So those costs go up quickly. Small, medium, and large based entirely on height of the vehicle, number of axles. And all of that high-tech equipment is telling you that as the cars roll through. There are set lasers that measure the vehicle height, sensors under the roadway that will tell you how many axles. So people much smarter than myself have developed all of this. And so it's all in place. It's all very quick and easy. $2 if you're in a passenger vehicle with a prepaid account and transponder. This is what they use in Louisville. You go up a class to about your box truck, delivery truck, that sort of thing, $5 with that account. Semis, heavier trucks, more wear and tear, $10. Costs go up, $2 for everybody. It doubles for passenger vehicles. It's $4 if you don't have that prepaid account and transponder. So if all electronic tolling moves to this area, very important to get that transponder. Now, again, these are not our toll rates. These are for the Bridges project in Louisville. What do we do about mitigation? Very important to talk about. If we have tolling on I-69 and a remaining US 41 bridge, there are going to be some impacts, right? And we have to talk about mitigation at that point. So the DEIS includes several possible mitigation options. We want to make sure those transponders are available in lots of places. So that would be likely customer service offices. They would be dropped in the mail when people open accounts online. That could be convenience stores, a gas station, that sort of thing where you could get a starter kit. We want to make them available. We want to make sure you can get those transponders with cash and that you can also add money to your account with cash. Not everybody has debit card, credit card, bank accounts. Not everybody has a bank population, so we want to make that available as well. Also, there's some discussion about a frequent user discount. That might be an option as well. So that would be designed for people who live on one side of the river, work on the other side. They're making that trip back and forth, several times a week. There may be a discount for those folks. There's also the possibility that there could be a lower toll rate. If we have verified low-income users who are using that 41 bridge, they may be paying a little less when they cross it. As I said, those decisions are not going to happen now. It will be up to a bi-state group to get together, hash all of that out, and that will be coming before we get to construction. All right, we talked about it a lot. Those public comments really do make a difference. As Marshall said, right now we have 2 options on the table with 1A and 1B. What's going to decide the recommendation is really 3 things. We have that continuing financial analysis that Marshall talked about, fine-tuning those numbers, figuring out where we're going to land. Federal grant availability, what money is out there at the federal level that is going to help close that gap. And then the third component is that public feedback. So when people say, does it matter if I'm spending my time and I'm coming to a public hearing? Does it matter if I'm, writing something down on paper? You better believe it matters. So if anybody asks you, does it matter? They've already made decisions. No, everything is on the table. No decisions have been made, and that feedback really does make a difference. Had the public hearings, had great turnout. In Henderson, we had around 225 folks on Monday. In Evansville, we always get a little bit lighter turnout. As you can see on the map, a lot of the impacts are on the Kentucky side. So we had about 120 folks on the Evansville side. Both nights, though, we had about 30, 35 speakers, people who really wanted to get up in front of the microphone. We heard many times, kind of down the line, it's very important for folks to have a US 41 bridge, and it's very important to them that that's toll-free. That is a lot of what was expressed. But we also heard they really want to keep both bridges. And they want both bridges to be toll-free. So that's just something that we heard frequently at the public hearings. This is a draft statement. Everything's on the table. Nothing has been finalized. But we talked about the math problem that already exists. That math problem, you're only compounding it if you talk about keeping another bridge, especially as we talked about those cross-river needs and where you are. So that's part of the work that is still ahead. Community conversations. Since we already went through the public hearings and we had those the last couple of nights, we have 2 more opportunities later this month. So if somebody asked and they said, shoot, I missed the public hearings, I want to be heard, what can I do, where can I learn more? We have one on the 23rd in Henderson at the Housing Authority, one on the 24th in Evansville at the Central Library Branch. These are a little different than the public hearings, a little less formal. It's getting together, having a nice group conversation. We had half a dozen of them in the spring. Really well attended, but not only that, it's just that two-way dialogue that was really beneficial for the project team. So if somebody is looking for a venue where they can learn more, we'll have a short presentation, shorter than this, giving them an overview, and then we'll just open it up to talk to folks. So it's really interesting, and we had some, I think, very productive talks when we did those in the spring. So encourage folks to join us there if they're able to. As Marshall said, it is not light reading. It's a big old binder. It's about 4 inches, and it's not light reading at all. But if you want to see the DEIS, it is on the website, and it's broken out by chapters. So if there's something that you're particularly interested in, you're going to be able to find it pretty quickly. And if you have any questions, you can always call the project office. Also in all of these spots, as Marshall talked about, lots of library branches, at the judge's office, at the Housing Authority, we have a hard copy. Some people do want to flip through it. Some people want to see the data. They want to see the maps. And if they want to do so, we have it available in several spots. Okay, that feedback. It's great. All the people that we heard from at the public hearings, not the only channel by any means. As Marshall said, go to the website, I-69, OhioRiverCrossing.com. Contact us page on there. You can leave us a comment. Email us, info@I-69, Ohio River Crossing. You can also write, drop us a note, as Marshall said, to the project office, or come by to one of those offices. They all count the same. It's great if we saw you. It's great if you went to a public hearing. That means just as much as an email that we might get in the inbox tomorrow. It all counts the same, all weighted the same, all part of the public record. Only important thing to keep in mind, February 8th. That is the deadline for the formal comment period. So we talked about where we're headed. February 8th is the big deadline for the formal comment period. This project team is going to be busy this year. They have to take all of those comments, consider each and every one of those as we work toward that final environmental impact statement, that record of decision. That's coming late this year. Much to do between now and then as everybody rolls up their sleeves and figures out this math problem that we've talked about more than once today. So that's some of the work that's going on. They're refining costs. They're seeing where tolling needs are going to land, and also determining how we're going to keep this ball rolling. Nobody wants to stall out. Nobody wants to be where we were in 2004. So it's very important that the work being put in now is going to get us to a point where that gap is not going to be the hurdle that keeps us from moving forward with this bridge, because everybody wants to see this bridge built. Great ways to stay in touch with us. This handout that we gave you is available on our website. If you're looking and have any groups or anybody who wants information on the project, this is a lot of information that we covered today. It's a long presentation. Virtually every single thing that we've talked about is captured on here, and it is available on the website, so this is a good resource. Also, the presentation itself is what we did at the public hearings. That's available on the website. We have a couple of pretty cool videos. They're pretty short. They're about 3 minutes. One that just captures what's happening with the project. About a 2-minute fly-through video that will take you through those alternatives, let you know that route, look around, see where you're going. We also have just some behind-the-scenes stuff. We had people who literally were doing a dive in the Ohio River looking for mussels. We had people under overpasses looking for bats. So some of those are available as well. If you want to see some of the work that's happened since early 2017, it's worth checking out if you have a couple of minutes and seeing that. Social media, if you're a social media person, we let you know about everything that's coming up. We let you know about those public hearings, community conversations. We share those videos. Again, those comments on the social media during this period are not going to be part of the formal comment period, and we'll let you know on social media. So if you have comments, make sure you use those other channels, and if you could just share that with the folks who have an interest in this project. We really do appreciate the feedback. We appreciate people taking the time to share it, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about the project, or we can talk one-on-one afterwards as well. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for a point of privilege and address the group from that podium?
Yes, sir.
We'll get a minute.
We were actually going to ask you if you wanted to propose a resolution from this podium.
You know, it's funny you say that. What I'm about to say is not reflective of the ORX team. These are my opinions only. I don't want to put them on the hook. And especially because we have new judges here. As I understand it, the Green River Area Development District is a union of our counties to work on and promote and advocate for things that we all know benefit our region. Am I right? This project is probably the most important infrastructure project that will be done in our lifetimes. I compare it to the original construction of the twin bridges and any of the bridges in our region over the Ohio, and the building of the parkway system here. Imagine what our region would be without those bridges or the parkway system. Built with tolls, by the way. There's going to come a point, as Mindy discussed the funding gap, as we shoot for preferences that the community has about keeping the twin bridges open and free. Whether that happens or not, at some point we're going to be talking about financing, and what we're going to be doing is talking with our state government about how they can help us. And I'm going to need every judge and the grad staff to be ready and willing at some point to unify and send a strong message about the importance of this project in our region and how they can help. And I know that there are other projects in the region that are important to everybody, but I guarantee you there are none that will have the long-lasting positive economic benefit of this project. And we talk all the time about how much Frankfurt invests in eastern Kentucky and other parts of the state and how frustrated we get with that. The state is on the verge, has already committed millions towards the DEIS, and has the opportunity to help invest more than $1.5 billion in our region. How often does that happen in a lifetime? Never, in my lifetime here. So, I would hope that we're all unified in this effort. Again, I know that there are other projects that are important to you, but as a region, this has got to be number one. And if it's not, there's a very good chance that it will not happen. We compete against all the other projects in the state and the country for this. This is a time to be unified. And it won't only benefit the counties along which the corridor runs. I think Al Mattingly is very familiar with the fact that the Audubon Parkway has been designated as a potential I-69 spur. And once this corridor is completed, we can move on to helping get that done, and it will benefit Davis County and points beyond, and any county in connection to either I-165, I-169, and 69 will be able to benefit from that interstate shield, which is huge in economic development. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting me speak. And I want you to be prepared for a time in the near future when I come to the grad staff and this grad board and say we have to make a concerted and unified ask of the administration.
Please do.
Thank you.
Judge, yes. It's Judge Snyder is absolutely correct. We no longer travel by horse and buggy. We no longer travel 10 miles a day and then spend the evening. It's not unusual for people to commute tens of miles, if not hundreds of miles, to get to good paying jobs. And this is a project that will show huge benefit through the entire grad region, as well as other areas north and south of Henderson. So I'm in full agreement with Judge Snyder and the need for all of our judges to come together whenever you ask, Brad, and show solidarity in pushing this forward. And it will take a concerted effort, because there are lots of other places in this Commonwealth where they would like to see that money spent.
No, we all agree with what Judge Snyder and Judge Madigan, and also the presentation here. I would still, as a staff person, we have February 8th as they indicated to be an official comment period. I think it'd be worthwhile and be appropriate for these regional body of all 7 counties together, have a resolution to support, and again, I know the city commission and the county has, their bodies have made some sort of resolution. I think it would be great that we can show the support on behalf of the counties, behalf of the elected officials in 7 counties, and how important this project is to have some sort of resolution passed by this body. Because February 8th is not too far, and we will not meet again until February 14th or so, so.
I make a motion to grant staff draft a resolution supporting the project and allow them to publish it as soon as possible before we have to meet again.
Second.
That was a motion by Judge Snyder, second by Judge Mattingly, to help me with the rest of the word.
Pass a resolution about the grad board.
Yes.
And I just wanted to support these initiatives.
Yes, let that motion reflect that. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion is passed and recorded.
And also, we do have some gifts for the speakers, so before you guys leave, he's not here, so yeah, bring it up. As he's bringing it up to the speaker, the list, I know that our staff has been attending all the hearings. Jenna Boyce is also attending all the hearings and everywhere else. And I know that the city commission has passed a resolution to, I guess, open 2 lanes or 1 lane. I'm not which one was that. So I would imagine we will work with both of you to figure out what is the best, something on the page. And I talked to Mandy and the staff earlier too. On the other side of this whole project, and just now is very much aware before he became judge, that we are working with the Madisonville and Hopkinsville and Pennyroyal and Purchase Ad District to really think about creating an economic development corridor for the I-69. And I think that's also work in progress. And earlier this week I had a meeting with Tony from the Kindle, and he's also aware that we need to get all region work together as a mega region, because if you don't, somebody else is going to take it over, so yeah. Okay. All right, but
Get your picture here. That's your gift, and really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you so much.
And you too.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
thank you again for your time. And again, as you can see, legally we cannot serve you champagne, but we give champagne glasses anyway. All right, the next item Judge asked me to look into is the revolving loan fund. It's on page 4. This is the loan that was reviewed by the RLF Loan Committee and have recommended for approval to the Executive Committee. This is our first ag loan that we have not done in the past. It's from Mark French in Morganville. They're requesting loan of $125,375. If you're looking at your page, it's on page 4 in your book. Loan is for land acquisition. Term is 15 years. Rate is 3.38 adjusted annually. The loan will create 5 full-time and 5 part-time positions. The total project cost is $367,400. Along with our loan request, there'll be $231,625 on the venture capital money and the equity of $10,400. Good thing about this loan being one of the ag loan, the loan committee had some. And I wanted to make sure that it is a good loan. It is very much overly collateralized. Our collateral will be first position on the 68 acres they're requesting to purchase with this loan. Along with that, we have a second position or second lien on the 102-acre farm they currently own. Even though we don't have the recent PVA estimate, recently the land next to that went for $5,600 per acre, $600 per acre. So looking at potentially almost $750,000 worth of collateral for the $125,000 loan. So I believe that's something that would be great for our RLF program, and also a great way to help out the agriculture industry as well. The owner started farm operation 20 years ago, currently active in farming, The property to be purchased, 68 acres, located on 425 State Route on 871 in Morganville. And the produces crop, grain, corn, and beans. It's currently leases the property that he would like to purchase.
And Tim, just for the
Sure.
benefit of the new judges, go ahead and tell them the process.
Okay,
This
all
thing's already been vetted, we're coming to this board.
Yes, especially the two new judges, we have, I think Joanna mentioned during her presentation, the Economic Development Administration, EDA, out of Washington, gives us the money to provide the loan to the businesses in our region, the low interest loans. Over the time, this was in 1979, over the time, the money has been turned over and over, and many loans have been given in all your counties. The loan, the way it works, our staff work with any potential loan applicants, and they put together the application of the loan based on the required criteria from the EDA, and there is a loan review committee of bankers that is part of the Economic Development Council that we have. That she talked about. We have a economic development person from each county, along with the banker on that committee, and that board has a loan committee. That committee reviews the loan application, makes a recommendation to the loan EDC committee, which comes to the grad board. Since we do not have a grad board meeting today, so the executive committee has the same authority as the board. So they ask you guys to review that and approve the loan. So we do all the paperwork. We comply with all the EDA requirements, and everything is there. It's up to you, this body, to decide is it something that you would like to approve, to help out of the local loan. And this is again being in Union County. Judges here too. If you want to make any comment about this, okay.
$5,600 an acre in Union County. I'll sign up for it every day.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that before we get it, we have people that know financial.
Yes, yeah.
To review it before we get it.
Yeah, most of the bankers, and some of the folks who are in the loaning business are the one who review all the loan applications before they come to us, and staff provide all the background information and the calculations about the financial statements and everything else.
Well, that was good in Union County, something like that.
Judge Onan, would you like to make that
Sure,
motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Judge Onan, to have a second.
Second.
Second by Judge Snyder. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries, and that loan is approved by this committee.
The next item is not in your book, I don't believe, but I think it's just more or less a formality. We do need this body to approve and allow our chairman and who else, Debbie? And myself to be a official signature for the fiscal year 2019.
I make a motion to that effect. Second.
Motion by Judge Snyder, second by Judge Onan. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The motion carries. I want to bring it for consideration of this committee, for us to go back to having a meeting a month of the grad board. There's so many things that slip by, and 2 months is a long time to do it. We end up shooting at issues with shotgun when we really need to be a little more precise on our issues. And it's my recommendation, because it'll be at your pleasure, that we go back to meeting every month on the grad board. Any? Yes, sir.
For this group, it wouldn't be much of a change because we're both meeting an executive committee meeting
Yes.
1 month and attending board meetings the next.
Yes, sir. All you guys that are here now wouldn't even affect how many times you got to come. But the full board and certain items of business, we can only take care of by the full board.
Doesn't this need to be from a full director?
What the executive committee would take it.
Okay,
Yes.
we're recommending and they would.
Yes.
They would decision, okay.
Yes, sir.
It's easy for us to, for us to decide that for.
Well, is there any way we can get any feedback, Lieutenant or David, from the other members of the board to see whether that's going to be a hassle? I'd hate to make a recommendation if there's widespread opposition to this schedule change that we don't know about. Again, for us, it's easy.
Yes. Generally, you always hear from people who want to make a change. Those who I've heard from are the ones who would like to go back to the monthly meetings.
So are we making a decision, or are we making a recommendation?
Recommendation.
The board will decide in February if they want to go back to the regular meeting.
Yes.
So unless does anybody else have anything to say? I mean, I'd like to make a motion to approve a monthly meeting contingent on good feedback from the other board members at the next monthly meeting.
Okay, I do have a motion by Judge Snyder. Do I hear a second? Second by Judge Henry.
Have a comment,
Yes,
Chairman.
You knew I had a comment.
I know you did. I'm trying. I wasn't looking that way.
I could tell. Judge, not to put you on the spot, but I'd like to know what we have not done well or in a timely manner in the last 6 months that we have been meeting every month as the executive board and every other month as the board. Not to put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
Judge Man, I don't have a list, but I have discussed
I will
this.
ask that question.
I have discussed this with other members, and I've discussed that's not here today even.
Sure.
And I've had that. We've had that. Some of the staff here has had that comment made to them that we wish we could do it. Go back the way we were. It just
Well, I
seems like.
understand, but that's different
And
than.
if you miss, and especially if one of the board members miss a meeting, then it's 4 months out before they're back.
But that's a different reason than what you posited as a reason for us to go back.
Yeah, I'm saying we.
The positive was,
Yes.
we
have
shooting
more-
with a shotgun.
Right, yes. Yes.
So what have we not done that we should have been doing as a board? Not just because some of the members wish to go
Okay.
one way or the other.
No, I truly believe that we haven't given some things as much consideration, as much time as we should, and I don't have my list with me of items, but I think there are things that we could look at closer if we had them in a more speedy fashion.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, but I would also say that if you're not spending time outside of this board of directors meeting and the executive meeting, doing your research and homework, you're not gonna, the extra hour and a half that you put in every 2 months is not gonna make a big difference. So, I'll end it at that, Judge. Thank you.
Well, and to further my comments, if there's examples that Brad's staff can offer the executive committee that might bolster the idea of the advantage of meeting monthly, I'd welcome it. And I'm sure David Johnson would too, and Judge Manning would. So
Yes.
to help this discussion, if Brad's staff can pass along some examples.
May I, Judge? I would do that.
Okay.
I think that a good discussion. I know, we had since whenever time, we just said nothing that important to be meeting every month. It just that, there are a lot of new initiatives and programs happening, just like the one we had today. That happens that I know because you guys meeting, the board only meeting, us 6 times, and it is very difficult to bring all those things for the full board. I can always bring for the executive committee. Then we also have to complicate with that because most of the time, 1 or 2 of those board meetings always gets in conflict with the KECO or judge executives or the KLC. So we lose quite a few members attending the meetings and all that. So that also complicates too. And oftentimes our staff gets confused as far as what loan or some of the project got to be approved certain times. And I mean, it's not Judge, again, we can survive if we had to. No. To me, I think I think some of the board members, not you, the elected body here, but the real regular board members, they feel like they don't get a chance even to interact, because if they miss a meeting, I'm talking about the citizen members or the mayor, then you're talking about 4 months, sometimes 6 months before that happens. So again, you guys are here anyway. But I think it's just that the other group that if they feel like, they feel like more part of the body if they can come every month. And again, I can't, just like Judge, I cannot quantify the listing, what it is, but it's just that.
Please,
Yeah. It's
Do
difficult
that.
to do that.
do that.
Yeah.
And specifically, the issue where we're having a meeting regarding I-69 is extremely important.
Right, right.
And the executive board has the power to issue. We won't have another meeting, and we're gonna do what needs to be done there. And I think if you look at the rules, the executive board has the power to make those decisions and then have them ratified at the next board meeting. I'm just thinking that we just went into this every other meeting, and you're right, Judge, we'll be here every month, but we just changed it, and we're not even a year into it, and we're gonna change it now.
I'm just answering the question. We will do whatever this body wants to do.
I understand, and I'm just responding and rebutting. Why?
Well, there is a motion and second on the floor. And I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote on it, but I would remind everybody, if there's further discussion, that's okay too. But I would remind you that this is just a recommendation to take to the full board in February, which if the full board decided they didn't want to do it, then they've been out nothing because they'll be here then anyway. So I'm going to call for a vote on it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
What do you think, Judge?
I think it passed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would request a hand, show of hands.
Well, I'm sorry. That's out of order. The motion's already passed. Hey, it's okay. Hey, it's okay. Just one of him. I have three of them like it on my fiscal court. So anyway, hey, I'm kidding.
You better be kidding there.
I'm funny. Hey, let's see where are we? Okay, we're back to you, Jatan.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we suspend Jatin's remarks, adjourn the meeting.
I will not talk about the board meeting schedule anyway, so. This is really important. I think that this is kind of my report to you guys. It's in your book. And I'm not going to talk about, this one took too long. I'm not going to talk about, what's happening in Frankfurt, Washington, all those things. There's Washington, all of you know, because of the, everything being closed, nothing really is happening as dealing with the different cabinets and everything else. In Frankfurt, session is going on. Last night I sent you guys a link of all the, so all the bills have been filed up to this point, and I'll continue to update you on those as far as some of the bills have been filed for the General Assembly. Nothing so far has been very, very critical for us to really concentrate on those things. I also sent you a link yesterday as far as all the committees being formed. And if you open that, if you get a chance to, the committees, they will also list the subcommittees and also who's serving on those, and also finally let you know that who is from your area or what district is also on this committee, so that when the time comes in for us to attend any of the subcommittee meetings, we know exactly what is going on. And also a calendar, but the General Assembly committee meetings already did that too. I do want to talk, maybe kind of give you an update on what's going on with our ongoing, communication with the DLG and with the Commissioner Daniel. For the new judges, I'll let sit down with you, explain the whole thing, but I think if you bear with us, a 2018 contract, as all of you know, was never been signed, and our funding wasn't reinstituted, and we decided, not to file a lawsuit among, some of the RADs. We did get finally a ruling from the DLG of our hearing that we had, that myself and Chairman Thurman Kelly, Judge Kelly attended that, and basically indicated that we're not going to put the money back in the budget. We expected that, and I think our next recourse will be to appeal to the governor, which we are not going to do that either, because that's 2019 contract. We are for FY 2018. I'm sorry, FY 2019, which began in July 1 of 2018. We don't have a contract. Finally, at the December meeting of the Judge Executive's Elected Officials Training Program, I did get a chance to have Commissioner come down and meet with the ad directors, and I said I did because I'm chairing the DLG of the committee for the ad directors, and she did give us a contract at that time. Our contract for FY 2019 was reduced by around some $40,000 than what we had in 2017 or so. And so we have the contract now, and so far I have not signed the contract. None of the ed directors have signed the contract, and the reason being that even though we got the contract, there are things that she has changed in the contract that we do have serious concern. Not just for the money side. I mean, I'm not going to argue about the money side because that was a formula, and the finance cabinet had a role to play, and they played. So we're not going to argue about that. But if you see a page in front of you, this is the letter that after the discussion among the directors and the Kentucky Council of Ed leadership, they decided to send this letter to the commissioner. This was dated on, I believe, on January 4th, signed by Amy Kennedy, our chairman of the Ed Directors Group, and also the vice chairman, I think Craig Stanfield, from the Kentucky Council of Ed. Let me kind of point out why some of the concerns that we have, and then I would also ask for your consideration for my recommendation. We pointed out about 4 or 5, I think there are about 6 bullets. Number one being that the contract took away the ability for us to mutually negotiate what the scope of work should be. And this is I'm comparing to the contract we have with DLG for the last 45 years. It's not something this is the first time we have this contract that they put all those things without even letting us know because they gave us the contract. They want us to do SPGE, which is special district, special purpose government entities. However, they took away the money, for that task. The second bullet is also important that what the legislator intended for the money to be distributed to the ad district, that it is not it's more or less ignored, and then they decided their own formula of utilizing the distribution of the funds. That was a concern we have. The third being that the contract says that the commissioner herself has a sole authority to amend and terminate the contract at any time. That was no some sort of communication or some of the both party involvement before you terminate to reduce the contract, and we are concerned with that too. Then she also put down in the contract the travel cost cannot be more than $2,400 for the DLG and the contract with the grad and or ad districts. Mind you, we got this contract in December. It's already January. For the first 6 months, we had no contract, so we spend our staff time in helping you guys based on the previous administration, the contract we used to have with the DLG. Actually, by the time I got the contract, we already spent $6,000 in the staff travel. And those travels I had to send the staff to get certified in Frankfurt or wherever the training they have to get so they can write the CDBG grants and CDBG administration. I had to send the staff to work on your project. It could be ongoing community development projects or helping the public administration and all those things. And there was no limitation before what you can spend. So now I think we had to work with her to figure out to take away the $2,400. Every single ad district had that issue as far as because we didn't have that condition in the past, but we got to do the work which is in the scope. We cannot do this upper scope in DLG without going to the communities, and that requires travel. The number 5 is that she indicated that the ad district may be declared ineligible for further government contracts or federally assisted projects. That is very critical because if you sign this and then she decides that hey, grad is no longer eligible to do the social federal programs. First of all, there is no basis why we should be ineligible, and plus this is the federal funding. The state has nothing to do with that, So that will also be a concern that we have that needs to be resolved. And then the last one is that if we sue the DLG for any reason, that some of the ads have done this time, or if DLG sues the ad district for any reason that they feel like that we did not mismanage money right or something, we are responsible for all the legal fees regardless who sues us, which is not right either. So I mean, so these are the concerns that we have. I have requested Commissioner to sit down with the ad directors again, and she graciously agreed yesterday, and we are going to have a meeting on Friday in her office with all 15 of us, and we're going to talk, among the other things, some of the concerns we have in the language. It's not that we are not going to sign the contract, we're not going to work with the DLG, because my job is to provide the service to the cities and counties. So we got to sign the contract. But I would ask that you allow me to sign a contract after a meeting with her, and also to allow me to send the letter of induress. So the certain things got to be resolved. And I'm hoping that this will be resolved because I think as the 2019 has opened up, she's answering over, over my emails and everything else. She's open to meeting and everything else. So again, that's the reason I want to make you update. And I'm not going to, rehash about 2018. It's an old news, it's done and everything else, and I don't think neither one of them. By the way, the decision that we received legally from DLG was reviewed by our chairman then, Judge Thurman, along with our treasurer, Judge Mattingly, and they both advised me not to appeal to the governor because there was no point doing those things in 2018. But they do have concern about the 2019 contract. We have a contract, we got 40,000 cut, but the major concern is to all these conditions, because if we sign that, we may have to leave it there for the future years as well. I talked to our chairman now, and he told me that he and Judge Onan and Judge Henry are ready to meet with the governor's office to kind of, at least from our side, on the grants we have, to talk about some of the issues. So, yes, sir.
Tim, was there any mention about returning to a meeting with her every month instead of every other month?
Last year she told us that.
Never mind, that was a joke.
Well, she's open now. Last year she told me that there's no need for us to meet with you guys unless it's only just quarterly. We used to be every month for the last 45 years. But I think yesterday, she did agree with me that she will meet with us regularly if there is a need to, which is no problem at all. So I would, if I may ask you to maybe pass a motion to, for me to sign the contract with a letter of concern to go with that.
So moved.
Okay, we'll have a motion by Judge Mattingly to allow Tim to sign the contract we've been talking about with the DLG. To have second. Second by Judge Barton. Further discussion.
Tim, are you going to note in that contract that you're doing this under duress or
Yes.
you don't agree?
There'll be a-
And I would add or request that those, like,
With those comments being added to this motion. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, you're back again.
All right. Okay. With that. The Kentucky Council of Ed, which is all the 2 board members from each of the 15 ad districts, they're going to have the legislative breakfast that y'all will be invited. Y'all invite all of you. You'll be in Frankfurt on the February 14th at the cafeteria and the annex. It starts at 7:30. Any of the board members would like to attend, please let us know. This is our annual breakfast. We will have the breakfast with all the legislators, and they do all show up from all state of Kentucky. And after that, there'll be a meeting of the Kentucky Council of Ed Board where the governor's staff will attend, along with the House leadership and the Senate leadership, to talk about what is happening in Frankfurt General Assembly and how does it impact the local cities and counties. As I said earlier, our breakfast will be on February 2nd here in this room, 9 o'clock. We will have the breakfast. Generally, we have it after the Owensboro Davis County Chamber of Commerce had their breakfast at 8:30 or 7:30, and they all come down here. We'll provide breakfast here. Then also all legislators stay here till about 11:30. Answer any questions, make any presentation about the bills they're sponsored or some things affecting the cities and counties. Upcoming board meetings for me. For the board meeting here, February 13th, our grad board meeting, and have invited Commissioner Danahook to attend that. So far, she has not declined that, so maybe, I think she may be here. That'd be great. Now, I do want to grant you, I got to do what we got to do as on behalf of the ad district. We do have, as some of the judges mentioned this morning too, we have one of the best relationships with the DLG and the commissioners. And I don't want to jeopardize that for your sake, but at the same time, we got to do, at least take some stand to make sure that everything is in the right way to be done. Executive committee will be also on the 13th, on the same day, and that's about all, Judge.
And that's at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
At 9 a.m. One of you guys do that for the executive committee meeting, and the grad board meeting at 10:30.
Right. Well, you'll get all the information and everything too, yeah.
And I would highly recommend you try to attend the meeting in, on the 14th in Frankfurt would be, it would be worth the trip up there.
I'd be glad to, if I have not sent you guys, I'd be glad to send you the calendar of social events for the legislators. I did? Okay. 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 Because that way, you can see some of the organization meeting with, them, so you can also attend that in Frankfurt as well. So, okay. Okay.
Does anyone else have anything for the good of this meeting? Good of this committee? Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to compliment you on your first meeting as chair. You did an excellent job. A comment on this, whenever you have a motion and a second and it passes, you whack the gavel, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it official.
That's,
Okay.
it's done deal, it's sealed.
Okay, I would bring it to your attention that the vote requesting that we present to the full board, the requirement to go back to a meeting every month, was not accompanied by the gavel banging.
Hey, I'll be a little quicker. I'll be a little quicker now.
Has the grad executive board ever had a sergeant of arms?
No, maybe we need one. And I'll tell you one thing I will do though, when we do it, our order will be that we have a motion and a second and then discussion. We don't, we don't have a motion and then a lot of talk before the second and all that. So I would appreciate you keeping that in mind. We'll go with that order. So anyone, if no one has anything else for the good of this body,
One other thing, real quick. before
yes, sir.
you're done.
Yes, sir. I didn't drop it yet.
Very appreciative, we're at that 38%, as far as our funding goes, and we're saving money, and, we're trying to find ways to always be efficient and things like that. But, I was just wondering if there was any way possible for the 10 to, if we could get an upgrade on grading pens.
Have you got it all?
Well, these are the pens that, staff ended up having to come to Western County, and I had ink slung all over my walls, I've been working on it. And, but they just don't hold together, so if we could upgrade the ink pens just a little bit.
You are the treasurer. You got it.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Shaw, I think you should need to ask who the staff was. That would probably give you more understanding of that.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
me.
you tell them, I'll tell me.
All right. And that,
Nobody, I was just going to announce that we're going to have a welcoming for our new EDC director and airport director. So, but you're really the only one that's here that would.
Okay, I found this on the web.
You can't come. Anyway.
Yeah, we already done that all along. We are meeting with her.
Good.
all right, well, this meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you.